Welcome to Job Ready. I'm Jeff Nelder, and today I'm joined by Josh Mensinger, who's Senior Vice President at GQR, where he leads their HR and total rewards practice within their Workday division. Welcome, Josh.
Appreciate you having me, Jeff. Great to be here.
Fantastic. Well, Josh, for our audience, you sit at a fascinating intersection. You don't design benefits. You're the expert who finds the benefits leaders who do, which means that you see something most of us don't, what employers are actually asking for when they need someone to lead their total rewards strategy, and whether that's keeping pace with the world we're all navigating right now. So let's jump in. You recruit the people who design benefits. So what's actually different today about what employers want in a total rewards leader versus maybe 5 years ago?
Great question, Jeff. Yeah, I partner with companies all across the country to find their total rewards leaders, which typically is encompassing of benefits as well as other areas such as compensation. One thing that I have noticed over the recent years is the total rewards role itself continues to evolve. Ask any total rewards leader, they'll tell you something new is getting tacked on, whether it be HR technology or HR analytics, HR operations, and I've seen even other interesting things added to the total rewards domain in recent years. As far as things that are really starting to stand out, I'm noticing, I'm hearing from the total rewards market, I'm seeing it in hiring decisions, is the total rewards role really being elevated to a true strategic partner within the organization. It's no longer total rewards being seen as this back office support system or only administering comp programs or benefits programs. Yes, at the end of the day, like that is the core responsibility of a total rewards professional. But the ones that are excelling in today's market, the ones that are getting promoted, that are getting to the finish line on new opportunities, really have that business acumen. They're able to take a role that is heavy data. There's a lot of data involved in comp planning and benefits, with benefits renewals continue to skyrocket in cost. And if you are a total rewards leader that is able to take all of that information, all of that data, and bring it to the organization, both as far as internally with your CFO, your CHRO, your CEO, and really be able to storytell on what impact these decisions are going to make for your organization and really drive it into business outcomes. I've had some recent incredible conversations with both CHROs and VPs of total rewards. And that seems to be the overwhelming theme that I continue to hear again and again. Um, I'll pause there.
So when I hear you say that, it sounds like we're moving from a place of administration into being an architect, right?
Absolutely.
So how are these total rewards leaders, like what's their process for designing the ones who are really successful and who are moving at the speed of the market now, right?
Another area I'd say that parallels to that, that's giving total rewards leaders an edge, or the ones that do have an edge, if you will, is being able to leverage technology. Everyone's talking about technology. Everyone's talking about AI to exhaustion. But total rewards leaders, they don't necessarily need to be an AI guru. They don't need to be the one setting it up and knowing how to use it from a deep technical standpoint, but being familiar with the tools, how to be an end user, and then how to use those tools to, going back to what I said earlier, you have all this data, all these all these key metrics within your organization, and it can be overwhelming and it can be hard to digest and then be able to do the storytelling, as I mentioned. But if you're well versed in some new technology, some new AI, and you can leverage that, implement it, roll it out within your organization, and use that to your advantage to make you more successful, to allow you to drive these initiatives, create these programs, and show where that business impact and the ROI are coming from. You're the superhero. You are making an impact, and you are incredibly visible in that organization from those actions.
So, AI as a tool is one vector of this, right? But then AI as something that accelerates the pace of how you develop your workforce is something we're really interested in at Job Ready, right? Job Ready, job readiness, productivity. And since AI is changing job requirements faster than benefits packages were traditionally designed to keep up with, and nobody I speak with knows exactly how roles are going to be affected, right? Everybody's kind of spitballing how they're going to be affected.
Yeah.
Tuition benefits is a different area, but one we're really interested in. It runs on a period clock, right? It runs on a semester clock, or it runs on an 8-week clock, but workforce transformation runs on a different clock entirely. Do you see employers connecting those dots at this point, and how are they doing it?
That one's that one's tough to truly nail down at this point, Jeff. There's a lot of gray area, I would say, still. But where I do see some parallel to what you're describing, and as far as something like tuition benefits or upskilling
Yeah.
per se, more going away from the traditional model of like, how do we reimburse you for something that you did years ago? You had a bachelor's degree in communications umpteen years ago. We're going to throw a benefit out there that if you're with us for a year, we'll start to give you a reimbursement for that. Don't get me wrong, like that is it's nice, and people do partake in that. But I think something that I'm seeing more within total rewards is becoming or moving to a place of highly customized total rewards packages for highly skilled individuals or top performers or high potential people that are up and coming in their careers, that one, their packages are becoming more tailored specific to those individuals, whether it be by that skill set or within that discipline within the organization, versus the blanket type of total rewards packages that no matter what role you're in, level, you're kind of all getting the same rewards and same programs. So I think, to your point, when we talk about skill based incentives, AI, for example, is investing in new education, incorporating that into a total rewards package, that we're going to upskill you via this new certification program, whether that be AI or something niche to that particular role in accounting or finance. We see it a ton within HR technology, being that we are a certified Workday partner, ton of incentives to further that education, get certifications in Workday, and that can be added into a total rewards package. It can be used as a form of retention. Obviously, it ends up being if you track it right, you could see the impact from a business standpoint that, okay, we now have this cohort of individuals that have gained this additional credential or certification, and then what that unlocks as far as their performance, their contributions, and such. So, again, going back to finding ways to be a bit more tailored in an approach versus the traditional kind of blanket type of programs, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. So, in the upskilling arena, when you engage to find the right leaders in an organization to maximize the benefits of and the strategic use of total rewards, right? And look at the whole person. Is upskilling ever part of the brief? I mean, like, we know that experience today, moving at the speed of AI, is valued more than ever, right?
Yep.
And entry level candidates are experiencing more headwinds because of that, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like businesses want to strategically retain more experience and then improve on that experience.
Yeah.
So like in your seat, are you seeing that as part of the original brief? I don't even know if you call it a brief, but when you sit down, you say, what do you want that
Yeah.
we're going out in the marketplace to find?
Yeah. I am hearing some of that. I can't say that it's just the overarching, but I personally, based on some of the conversations I've had, some of the things that I'm seeing in the market, I do think there's going to be more of a push in the market and where the market's going for upskilling of existing employees versus let's just go and let's hire more people to fill this void that we don't have. We'll just add more headcount and we'll solve it that way. I'm sure you've seen it, Jeff. There's this consolidation that's happening everywhere. Layoffs that you're seeing. I saw, what was it? Oh gosh, who just yes, that was exactly, but it's not Square. It's what's the other say it again.
I'm forgetting the name, but I know 40% was the number that I heard.
I mean, that's exactly what I am referring to, and maybe I'll look it up here while we're talking. Essentially, they're, and I don't have a ton of detail, like I didn't deep dive into it, but there's this theme that's happening with organizations. Oh, we're going to cut 40%. We're going to go from 10,000 employees to 4,000 employees, um, or 10,000 to 6,000. I'm not a mathematician,
But
but
40%
the
major number. I mean,
yes.
like scary major number, even.
Block. I think you may have said
Block.
that, but yes.
Block. Yeah.
So, and I'm seeing that. I'm hearing it from people that are getting impacted by those reductions. That are, again, my audience, my network. It's all HR and total rewards people. And one thing that's super eye opening when I think back to years ago, HR and total rewards, in particular, total rewards was nearly untouched when it comes to layoffs. Very, very low unemployment rate, high competition, tough to, not a lot of talent in the market. And I'm seeing like total rewards roles getting impacted in a sense of, oh, we're gonna shave this layer, we're gonna shave the director layer and we're gonna consolidate, or we're gonna shave the VP layer and we're gonna consolidate responsibilities. So there's this theme of do more with less, is what I call it, that I'm seeing everywhere. And a lot of it is in the name of, one, I think cost and increase profitability, all of that. But also you're seeing we're going to utilize AI more. Big statement. What does that always mean? And we're going to leverage our top talent, or something along those lines. We're going to upskill or leverage. So going back to the upskilling topic, I think as this consolidation is happening, you're going to be left with a smaller cohort, and in theory, they're people that are high potential or the top performers, or highly maybe have unique skills already. But I believe that organizations will really double down on, okay, well, we've done this cut, we've got our core group that we want. We're going to invest in technology, we're going to use AI, but then we're also going to upskill who we have, versus, because it wouldn't really make sense to do all these consolidations and then just go to the market and hire for the skill. I'm
Right.
sure it'll happen some, but I think it'll lead to more internal upskilling. I think also what we will start to see is people staying with their organizations longer. The opportunities to jump around and take advantage, or really get incentivized for jumping around, because you could get an aggressive pay increase or shift to a fully remote job. Those things are as prevalent, in a sense that the remote jobs have dwindled. They're still out there, but they're not as prevalent as they used to be. So people can't go from this on-site or hybrid role and go out and have umpteen opportunities for remote roles that are at their same level and same skill set. So that's changed the hiring dynamic, particularly in total rewards. Because I will say back in post COVID 2021, 2022, almost every total rewards role went remote. And some of it was because organizations evolved and they found that they could operate effectively that way. But a lot of it, I think, was done reluctantly in order to be competitive because everybody else was doing it and total rewards is niche. The talent is niche. So it was like either jump on the wagon or you're not going to fill the role. Well, now the pendulum has swung and there's a lot more talent in the market searching. There's been this trend of returning to office, and that's becoming more of the new norm. And it has led to people kind of needing to hunker down in their roles, and they're not able to have the advantage of jumping around. And I think that'll be in other disciplines as well, where people will stay longer because there's not as much incentive to jump.
Wow, Josh. So I want to dig into this because retention has always been a big part of the conversation.
Yeah.
But thinking about total rewards as this strategy that is partly focused on retention, right? The investments have always been partly focused on
Yeah.
attraction, retention. In the face of these layoffs and the trend to stay in jobs, have you been hearing rumblings of retention becoming less important? I hadn't thought this just occurred to me just now,
Yeah.
but I haven't heard about that.
I haven't heard anything where the retention is less important. Could there be organizations that are focusing less on that? Potentially. I do think that at the end of the day, retention is always, for the most part, should be a priority and is in the back of most leaders and decision makers' minds because it costs so much to bring on new talent, like the cost of a bad hire, the cost of turnover. If that stuff is being tracked, like it's immense. So
Yeah.
where I think potentially you're onto something, Jeff, is the fact that there is a lot of talent in the market. And I think the byproduct of that have been some unfortunate, I'll say, behaviors from companies that are hiring. And we could go down a whole rabbit hole of that if you like. You know, that pendulum again swung so aggressively to the employer side versus the candidate side that unfortunately there are organizations that see candidates as kind of a dime a dozen. Well, if it doesn't work out with this person, we can post it and we'll get 100 applicants in 48 hours. Or so I could see where companies may feel like, oh, we can go to the market and fill these roles again if they are to turn over. I don't have anybody that's said that to me.
Yeah.
But to my other point about some of the negative behaviors that have happened as far as hiring for an open role and the candidate experience, I'll go out on a limb and say candidate experience is at its potentially at its worst of all time, at least in my recollection. And that is the byproduct of year over year now of it being such a employer driven market that companies, I think, have lost sight of what it means. These hiring decision makers have lost sight of what it's like to be in the shoes of the candidate and going through these processes, 8, 9, 10 interview rounds. What, Jeff? What? Like, I hear it every day. Crazy stories. And these are senior level roles.
Wow.
Directors, senior directors, CHROs telling me, Josh, yeah, I went through 9 rounds, this, that, and the other, and didn't get the role, or I was ghosted, or I went through 6 hours of psychological assessments and didn't get like, what is happening? I talked to a CHRO a few weeks ago that this is one of the worst that I've heard. Did 3 rounds of virtual, relatively standard, then was invited to travel to their on-site, flew into that city, did a full day, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., met 17 people, 17 people interviewed her, and then did a dinner. So we're pushing again. This is a long day. Go out to dinner, meet with more people. Dinner wraps up. Whomever was organizing all of this comes to her and says, "Hey, great day or whatever. Forgot to mention that I'm making up names here.
Yeah.
Susan, Tim, and Doug weren't in the office today. We need them to meet you before a decision can be made. We're going to have to schedule you for a virtual interview next week." After three virtuals, an on site, 17 people, let's tack on another three to make a decision. Reluctantly at that point, and I'll say, I think a lot of people are getting like defeated, as you can imagine, like getting
Yeah.
defeated in these processes. But years ago, probably would have like the red flags would have been, I think I'm gonna go ahead and just bow out. Like this is too much. Like I'm starting to question why this, or they would have other opportunities to go ahead and just like I'm good. But now we're in a market where opportunities at these levels and in these specializations are more niche. Individuals like this person are like, I've already done this much. I'm going to hope that I'll do this one more thing, and it's going to lead to me getting the job. So she takes the next virtual the next week. They go quiet for a week and a half. Really? Week and a half after all that time and energy? All that. And this isn't a happy ending, unfortunately. All that. And they reach out to her after that week and a half and say, thanks for your time, your energy, but we're going in a different direction.
Wow. So in a
And
cost conscious environment, I mean, that's an expensive on the employer side, that's an expensive interview process,
right?
right?
All
All of that time.
the time, the travel, the yeah.
And if you multiply that by whoever else they're interviewing, wow, the pressure and let's just I mean that's probably a somewhat of an edge example, right? But
It's an extreme, but Jeff, I hear stories that are just slightly off of that, like pretty darn close all the time. And there it is, it's what's happening. There's this, and I don't know the exact answer as to why. I'd be curious to people's theories. Um, there's like this analysis paralysis going on. Oh, we gotta, we want the perfect candidate. We got 15 boxes that we're trying to check. Well, we best check all 15. Well, either you're working with someone like myself and they're giving me feedback. Oh, they're nearly there. They check 13 out of 15, but can we see some more candidates? Or if you're not working with someone like myself and you're doing it internally, you're like, well, let's go back to our applicant pool and interview a few more. And then that person that's 13 out of 15 is put on the back burner to wait. And years ago, that person most likely would have gotten the job, or
yeah,
they would either gotten the job, or
yeah.
if they were told to wait, something else would have easily popped in. But I think going back to the abundance of candidates that companies feel that they can just keep searching, and the analysis paralysis or death by decision committee is kind of the thing right now. um I do have a theory too that if you think back to the era right after COVID, 2021, 2022, early 2023, when it was like the war on talent, people couldn't hire fast enough. Yeah, offers were super competitive. People were making jumps and increasing their total comps very aggressively. People were getting remote jobs. People were getting multiple offers. I do think some of the current climate is a byproduct of that. it was aggressive in the other direction, too aggressive, quite frankly. And unfortunately, there were candidates at that time that negative behaviors started to come about because candidates were in control and could go and not all, but I did see this happen where, you're leveraging offers against each other aggressively. You're ghosting companies that you've gotten a few interviews in, and then you're just like, whatever, like I got more things in the hopper. So I do wonder if there were companies or individual hiring managers during that era that got burned. Fast forward, now the power dynamic is swung and they're thinking, I'm not going to get burned again, but they've taken it now to the other extreme.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like if there's so much risk aversion,
Yeah.
right? That's a key risk aversion
Yes.
signal. If there's so much risk aversion for hiring the wrong candidate because the costs are higher than ever, it costs so much to bring somebody in for whatever mistakes they make while they're in and then replacing them. It seems like total rewards would be more important than ever, right? Taking the people that you have that you have some predictability around that, which is that's what fights risk aversion is predictability and
Yeah.
transparency, right?
Yes.
So if an employer is serious about using total rewards as an upskilling tool in the AI era, right? What does that total rewards leader look like now? They may not be a wonk, but like what do they look like? Because I assume you're tasked to find people to come in and solve these problems, right? Of the people that we have, getting them upskilled in the way that they need to be because we don't know what's going to happen. We need to be locked and loaded for that. What do those people look like?
They are total rewards leaders that have not allowed any sort of stagnation in their discipline. They've been staying ahead of these trends. They have been at the forefront, coming proactively to within their organizations to their leaders, whether that be the CHRO, CFO, CEO, and getting ahead of these things. Unfortunately, there have been total rewards leaders that have gotten passed over or had a little bit of more of a challenging time in this market because they may be really good technically at what they do. It's a very analytical. You have to be really sharp to be a competent total rewards leader, whether you came from the benefit side or the comp side or whatever. But if you aren't staying up abreast with what's going on in the market and getting ahead of it and showing that to your leaders in the form of data and strategy and utilizing technology, you're kind of falling behind. If you're relying on traditional processes, tools, and such, then you're getting passed over. Some of that may resonate with what we were talking about in the beginning, but those are a few things that come to mind.
Well, when these leaders are tasked with the trend that you mentioned, which is customizing, kind of
Yeah.
customizing by the individual, by the role, by what they need, by their importance. Uh, like how do they approach that type of customization? Like, is that something that AI is good at and being used for? Is that something that they're just building strategies and then AI is implementing the strategies? What's the situation as far
Yeah.
as developing those
Well,
customized pieces?
you certainly can't just jump and go purchase an AI and implement it, and then bam, all of your internal problems are going to be solved. It also starts with having a total rewards leader that knows how to get in there and assess current state of affairs, current infrastructure, data integrity. That's huge. I mean, I would say almost every organization that is going through some sort of HR or total rewards transformation, they're trying to push the needle. One of the first things that a total reward leader is going to have to do is go in and figure out what data do we have? Is it good data? Is it bad data? How are we tracking it? What are our standard operating procedures? How does all this stuff connect between comp and payroll and benefits and compliance, because if all that stuff isn't set at a good foundational level, then forget the new tools and technology and AI, because you're just going to have a bad infrastructure and bad data. So that's another thing that will help a total rewards leader stand out, is that aptitude to clean up, to drive change in an organization that may be really behind the curve as far as just the baseline things. But once that is there, then it allows you to get really creative and do a lot of meaningful work, because you can go out. There's all sorts of new technologies at the disposal for HR and total rewards leaders, probably almost to an overwhelming number. I imagine every VP of total rewards and CHRO is getting inundated with the emails from this tech and that tech. And you're like, what is going on? But if you have that infrastructure set, you know how to clean and get the data, and you start getting into job architecture and job profiles and getting all that, then you can start doing a lot of amazing work utilizing technology. And then again, you're the superhero. You're locked in and you're not going anywhere. So I certainly don't, I'm not the expert in which tool is right and how to, implement them. That's not me, but certainly those are some trends that I'm seeing from the market right now.
So in interacting, and I'm always interested, when we think about the superheroes and the job architecture, job profiles, the skills first movement is emergent and gaining momentum. Employers are looking at specific skills that
Yeah.
they need to validate, verify, develop, build in order to move their businesses forward in preparation for whatever comes. And nobody seems to have an answer for what's actually coming. But I always like to take the pulse on this. What are leaders talking about in terms of skills first, or in terms of how they track skills or use them in those architectures? Are you hearing anything about that?
Jeff, I haven't. I do think that you're correct, and that is something to be on the look for. But I personally haven't had like a deep dive conversation around what's specifically being looked for. So I probably wouldn't be able to dive too much into that one. But it does have me thinking that it's a question that I want to dive in with the right person. Yeah. Cause
What
yeah.
it's super important, and maybe people in your circles are talking about it in different terms.
Yeah.
But who is it from your seat watching, leadership transition, leadership being integrated, companies who are winning in that area? What's the hallmark of an employer who's doing this really well in terms of, knowing what they want, going through the process in a way that's good for human beings, good for talent, and then coming out successfully with somebody who they really wanted? I mean, you're seeing that a lot, probably, is you're seeing the success stories. Like, what do those employers look like in their process, and how they tend to approach things?
Are you meaning like if a employer is hiring for a VP of total rewards, and they want to be competitive, they want to be attractive, and an employer of choice, and things like that. Thoughtfulness comes to mind. I think in today's market, as messy and loud, and there are a lot of unfortunate, negative stories coming out from people's experiences and going through interviews and meeting companies. And if you can really stand out in a positive way with a few simple tweaks, as far as being an employer of choice, being an employer that people are running towards, on their own accord. And you start to get that brand recognition and loyalty and all of that. And the thoughtfulness, is the first thing that comes to mind. Like, when you think about, okay, we're going to hire for this role, where a lot of organizations mess up right away is don't even think through what that process is going to look like. I can't tell you the amount of times I get on an intake call about a new search, and a standard question in an intake call is, what is this process going to look like? Who are they going to meet? How many steps? Is it on site? Is it virtual? This is a search that they are like either already launched and have started, or they're about to launch. They've got, their job description, they've got their comp bands, they know what they want. They got all these expectations, no clue what the process is going to be. Probably six or so steps. It'll depend on schedules, and we may have them come on site, but we might do virtual. That alone, right off the cusp, is going to tell me that they're not being very thoughtful in how they're going to go about this candidate experience. And people talk about their experiences, especially when it's negative, unfortunately. People are more likely to talk about negative experiences than they are about positive experiences. And that will multiply. I think certainly, another thing is showing what the path within this organization could look like. We want to hire you for this particular role, but what is the culture there as far as, is it an organization that wants to upskill their employees? Is it an organization that shows proof of internal mobility and tenure and things like that? Really competent top tier total rewards leaders are going to be paying attention to those types of things, because at the end of the day, like, their programs and things tie into all of that, tie into internal mobility. And another thing that's very interesting is you'll have total, an organization hiring for a total rewards role, but really show that they lack a lot of interest in truly investing in total rewards. They may have lackluster programs as it is and no real plans to change them. Or the best is when someone's hiring a total rewards leader and they talk to me about the rewards package for that individual, and it's either below market, it doesn't incorporate an short-term incentive or some sort of long-term incentive package, but yet they want that person to come in and make an impact on those particular programs. So it's kind of a conflict of interest. So how do you expect to track the best talent when, why would the best talent want to come into an organization that isn't interested in striving to be the best? You know what I mean? And I've seen that, and it makes it very difficult to find people for, because they get further enough into the process and they realize, like, this organization isn't ready for this type of role, or the change that they're saying that they want, or the excellence that they want. They're not really. They want somebody to just come in and just kind of go with the flow. So I wouldn't say that's the overarching. Don't get me
Right.
wrong. I want to, paint it like kind of a contrast to organizations that are likely going to struggle to bring on the best talent, and the ones that are bringing on the best talent are doing the opposite of those things that I mentioned.
Well, you've shared some stories about the edge cases and the best practices today, and
Yeah, I like
this
that.
is
I've never used that phrase before.
well, outliers
Yeah.
perhaps, but what a great picture you provided today, Josh, of the marketplace that these total rewards leaders are facing, and I think that's a microcosm of the larger marketplace, right? Even with CHROs.
Yeah.
So basically, we're going through a transition, and people are doing the best they can to navigate, but it's tough. And
And I like
yeah,
to tell this to people almost on a daily basis when I'm talking to folks that have, maybe hitting a point where they're getting discouraged, is you absolutely are not alone. This is a this is across kind of the industry right now. And a lot of people are going through the same thing, the challenges of finding the next right opportunity and these poor candidate experiences. So we're all guilty of, being a little bit hard on ourselves at times, but I think that what the message I would give to those folks is like stick to it. Your time is going to come, the right opportunity is going to come. You're not alone. Don't hesitate to talk to people about it, talk to your peers, because most likely they've either navigated something similar or are navigating something similar, and you can lean on each other. I'm more of a optimist by just my it's who I am. So I do think that eventually this pendulum will swing, that the balance will shift. I don't think it should be 22 again. Again, that got a little out of control. Now it's kind of gotten a little out of control on the other side. Finding somewhere in the middle would be incredible, and I do believe that it will get there. It's slowly but surely. But to your point, Jeff, it is we're navigating just a unique, what did you say, cataclysm or it is. It's There's just so many things beyond my even knowledge that are geopolitical and societal and technology and just so many things that I can't fully wrap my head around, but we uh we brainstorm on it.
I think that's a mic drop moment, and I think that's very inspirational for our audience, and especially those members of our audience who are out there navigating this
Yeah. Yeah.
tsunami that we're in right
Tsunami,
now.
yeah.
Josh, you've been incredibly generous with your time. I'd love to have you back on at some point. I know
Yeah.
you're a busy guy, so I'm just going to say thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, Jeff, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to dive in with some of this. Hopefully, you and I can get together. We'll have you at an HR After Five event or somewhere. We'll cross paths. And thank you again for allowing me to join this.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right.